Hi, my name is Heath Wagoner, and thank you for coming today. It's my pleasure to present to you my thesis, Disclosional, a conversation around, in, and outside HIV. So I spent my summer researching austerity and the negative effects it has on the body and the increase in disease. Take Greece, for example. It suffered a 200% increase in HIV since austerity measures were imposed upon it in 2008. Being Greek, I wanted to help, and the reason for this massive rise was the close of needle exchanges. So I thought, a machine can solve this. So I began by drawing out this machine and many other objects. I went on to brand this machine and design it, and brand it by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola distributes AZT and HIV medication in third world nations. I thought, why wouldn't they want to prevent HIV by distributing needles? And then I thought, what if Wells Fargo, a bank that I've banked with for my whole life, branched out into Wells Fargo Health? I began by exploring their screens and designing what their health screens might look like. And then I began by testing these. And then I delved into research and presented these screens to many doctors, scientists, investors, artists, and of course, lots of designers. Designer Gabriel Craig thought that this was something for a scientist, not a designer, and it was dealing with people's lives. PhD student Hamad Sindi said this would never work. Public policy alone is crushing, and asked me if I'd heard of the Lower East Side Harm Reduction Center. I had not. So I went there with my designs, and they loved them. They said, this is great for a rural community. So I started volunteering there every Monday for the rest of this thesis. What I found out there is a big part of what they do is human interaction. A kiosk doesn't do that. And sometimes that's the only reason participants go there. And what would they do without that? And this was a successful failure. And at the same time, I had an aha moment. Their harm reduction kits for their needles and their condoms were reduced to paper bags full of the materials and a wordy pamphlet in a Latino neighborhood in serving a Latino population in a Chinese neighborhood. So I began by designing these new graphics that condensed the information, and I prototyped them and put them in context. And while there, another form of harm reduction I learned about was at-home testing. Testing gives people the power to know their status anytime, but currently there's no digital resources for that. So I designed Orest, a digital at-home tester that gives people the power to know their status anytime, anywhere. And the newest form of harm reduction is PrEP. PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's Truvada, a pill originally designed to treat HIV. Now it's touted as something that will prevent HIV if you take it once a day for the rest of your life. It's like birth control, but for men. While many people like this, other people are not so happy about it, including Larry Kramer, the founder of ACT UP, an activist, who says, you have to have rocks in your head to actively take an antiretroviral, and there's something cowardly in it. And this was another aha moment, because I was being a coward. I was dodging a gay thesis. I was so afraid of being pigeonholed as someone who did gay design and only things for the gay community that I was seriously inhibiting the work that I could do for my community. So I take you to the brave shoulders that I stand upon today because I've committed. The shoulders of ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. These were scientists, doctors, lawyers, callboys, queens, and regular guys. They took the pink triangle that was used to persecute gays and lesbians in the Holocaust and turned it into a symbol of power in silence equals death. They established a brand language and touch points that were visible at all their protests and rallies. Overnight, hundreds of gay men became amateur doctors and scientists, finding out what trials would save their lives and what drugs would kill them. They got arrested in the process. They created powerful graphics that criticized the government that was letting them die. They worked with artists like Keith Haring and designers like Tibor Kalman. And They came together to form the AIDS quilt on the National Mall, showing the sheer magnitude of people that lost their lives. And it's not over. It's actually increasing, especially in 13 to 24-year-olds. And so is ignorance. We have to fight people who disassociate themselves with HIV. And here's one way how.
Sparrow than a snail. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Yes, I would. If I only could, I surely would.
I'd rather sail away like a swan that's here and gone. A man gets tied up to the ground. He gives the world its saddest sound, its saddest sound.
I'd rather be a forest than a street. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would.
So what if we had devices to make these disclosures easier? I created speculative objects that allowed for disclosure, finalizing them in Scolperta. It's a device that allows you to disclose your status, and it generates whatever your disclosure is in a letter in an envelope. It harnesses both the power of the digital and the intimacy of the analog. So continuing this conversation, Nico came to me and said, give me a platform where I can disclose my status freely without fear of shame or stigma. So I give you and him high five. High five is slang in the South for HIV. So I've taken slang and created a solution. It's a geolocation-based app where HIV-positive men can connect with HIV-negative men to share their stories and daily lives to help HIV-positive men move past stigma and into normalcy. It also connects these men with resources such as doctors and events where they can find out more about their community. But most importantly, it connects HIV veterans with HIV pioneers in a mentor-mentee program where in a geolocation-based service, they can meet up and work through these issues to foster a better future. At the same time, I created another conversation with Visual AIDS. You might not know them, but you know the red ribbon they created to fight stigma against HIV and bring awareness. With their help, I collected the disclosures of 5 HIV-positive men, on the day that they found out they were HIV positive, and presented these disclosures in an event in New York's Lower East Side called Disclosional on March 28th. I spent many weeks in ideation, prototyping, and producing these platforms for disclosure. I created a design suite branded with the Disclosional logo in the Baker Miller pink. I then found a space, and upon entering the space, participants were encouraged to put on a pink triangle, turning them into a touch point, and given a manifesto to help them talk about disclosure. I used larger pink triangles to establish touch points within the space. One such touch point was a digital screen where users could interact with objects and the stories that correlated them that were produced by children who lost their parents to HIV. I also recreated the poster Silence Equals Death because it no longer equals death. It equals a lifetime of medication and doctor's visits. I then created portals where people could listen to these disclosures. And while listening to these disclosures, they had the opportunity to watch silhouettes actively having a disclosure, but to formulate their own disclosures in their head because the video was silent. And from there, I hope to work this summer with visual aids to produce another disclosional style event with StoryCorps. And in the fall of 2015, I Give You High Five, working with Todd Sowers, the former CEO of Manhunt, I'll produce this app and launch it. And I leave you now with the manifesto of Disclosional, hoping that you'll take these tools and go into the world and practice disclosional practices and reduce stigma and talk about HIV, because it thrives in silence. Thank you.
Well, I have professional experience in HIV/AIDS diagnostics and medical equipment, and also some losses in my own family. So this project's really important to me personally. So thank you for going at it just so directly and producing so much great work. This idea of ennobling, it's hard to know sort of what to do. And there's a lot of sort of holding your, shrugging and throwing your hands up. This notion of ennobling disclosure, of actually turning that into a designed thing, giving it language, disclosional, giving it identity and performance, and actually using design to tell people to pay attention to that, I think is amazing. To me, this is an incredible example of the power of design. What was it like to sort of put this thing together and then to see it together after all of these months? That's a long question here.
It was really rewarding, especially in disclosure of the experience, interacting with people that are HIV positive and forming relationships and trust to collect their stories. It's not an easy task, and I actually reached out to 20 people. Only 5 responded, and those that did, it was really rewarding and really rich what they shared with me.
And you started volunteering really early in on this and have been doing it since the beginning. Talk a little bit about how that happened, your commitment to the project. It's great that you were in it right from the beginning instead of looking at it from a distance.
So the folks at the Lower East Side Harm Reduction Center are really amazing. It's an active needle exchange. I'd volunteer there every Monday, and I would hand out syringes to participants. They're not called users, that's a rude term. And it was really rewarding to see what the needs of the community are. They're just people like us. They just struggle with addiction, but they're smart about it. They know that if they reuse their needles, they'll get HIV. So they're actually being proactive and responsible about their addiction.
And what have you, as a design person, as Heath, been able to contribute through your volunteerism, through your presence there, that maybe wasn't there before, Heath?
Hopefully better graphic design there. But compassion, fostering conversation. I think it was really important to get people to talk to me, and they were always really interested when I'd say, no, I'm not a master's in public health student. No, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a design student. observing here, and so they would really connect with that.
I think that that's great. You plan to continue this work. Can you tell the audience about some of the first next steps?
So, yeah, like I plan to work with visual aids in their partnership with StoryCorps. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell that they're working with that, but I'm
Fix it
super
in post.
excited. And I plan on producing High Five as an actual app. I think that it's this great window for our community. And so something like this needs to come around and like be there to help this, especially the 13 to 24-year-old range. Like if they do become positive, help them navigate it.
On a device that's native to them and important in their lives.
Yeah.
Well, you have been important in our lives. Thank you so much, Heath.
Thank you. Thanks, Mom.